My brother-in-law forwarded me a screenshot from my older sister's group chat. The message read, "Make sure Nora doesn't find out about Dad's birthday dinner. She'll just make it about herself." 14 people were in that group chat. My mother had reacted with a heart emoji. I sat in my car for 20 minutes reading it over and over, waiting for it to stop hurting. It didn't. So I did the only thing that made sense. I canceled the reservation I'd made 3 weeks ago, the one for 40 guests at the Italian place my father loved, and I waited. 4 days later, my phone wouldn't stop ringing. But before I tell you what happened next, hit that like button and drop a comment telling me where you're watching from. If your own family ever made you feel invisible, stay with me. This one's for you. I'm Nora. I was 31 when I finally understood that being needed and being wanted are two completely different things. From the outside, my family was the kind people admired. 2 parents still married after 37 years, 3 kids who all graduated college. A house in the suburbs of Charlotte with a wraparound porch and a garden my mother maintained like a second career. Holiday cards went out every December, always coordinated outfits, always smiling. Nobody looking at those photos would ever guess that one of the people in them had been quietly holding the frame together for years. That person was me. I worked in hospital administration. My entire career was built on logistics, problem-solving under pressure, making complicated systems function so other people didn't have to think about them. Somewhere along the way, those same instincts followed me home. I became the family's unofficial project manager. Birthdays, holidays, medical appointments, insurance paperwork, travel arrangements. If something needed organizing, everyone assumed I'd handle it. And I did, because it was easier than watching things fall apart. My older sister, Dana, was the firstborn, the confident one, the one with opinions that filled a room before she even sat down. She'd married well, lived in a bigger house, and had a way of rewriting history so that she was always the hero or the victim, never anything in between. Growing up, Dana broke rules. I followed them. Dana threw tantrums. I cleaned up. And my parents treated both approaches as equally valid, which meant Dana learned she could do anything and I learned I should do everything. My younger brother Marcus was the baby. Easygoing, charming, perpetually half-committed to things. He floated through life in a way I secretly envied. Nobody expected much from Marcus, which meant nobody was ever disappointed. He stayed out of conflict the way my father did, by simply not being in the room when it happened. My mother was the emotional center. She set the tone. If she was happy, we were allowed to be happy. If she was upset, we orbited her mood like satellites until the gravity shifted. She loved us. I believe that. But her love had conditions she never spoke out loud. The biggest one was this: don't make things difficult. Don't challenge the story she'd built about who we were. My father was quieter, a retired electrician with hands that were always busy and a voice that was always measured. He wasn't cold, just careful. He'd learned early in his marriage that agreeing with my mother was simpler than questioning her, and he extended that philosophy to everything. I used to think he was wise. Eventually, I realized he was just tired. When my father turned 68, I decided the party should be special, not extravagant, meaningful. He'd never been the kind of man who asked for attention, which was exactly why I wanted him to have it. I found a private dining room at Rosario's, the Italian restaurant in uptown Charlotte, where my parents had their first date. I booked it for 40 people. I arranged a menu with his favorites. I contacted old friends of his from the electrical union. I designed invitations myself, printed them on thick cardstock, mailed some, hand-delivered others. I put down the deposit with my own credit card. Then I handled the follow-ups, the dietary restrictions, the seating considerations, the playlist of old Motown he loved but never played anymore because my mother preferred silence in the evenings. I did all of this without being asked and without expecting applause. That was just how things worked. I built, they showed up. Everyone went home thinking it had just come together on its own. 3 weeks before the dinner, my brother-in-law, Kevin, sent me a text. Just a screenshot, no caption. I opened it and saw a group chat I'd never been added to. The chat was titled Dad's B-Day Planning. 14 members. My mother, Dana, Marcus, Kevin, cousins, aunts, and a few family friends. The most recent message was from Dana. Make sure Nora doesn't find out about Dad's birthday dinner. She'll just make it about herself. Below it, my mother's reaction. A red heart. I scrolled up. The chat had been active for 5 days. Dana had proposed a simple get-together at Mom's house as an alternative to what she called Nora's production. My mother had agreed. Marcus had sent a thumbs up. My aunt had typed, "Probably for the best." 14 people discussing how to erase me from an event I had built entirely on my own, and not one of them had thought to tell me. Kevin's message came with no explanation. I later learned he'd sent it because he thought it was wrong but didn't want to get involved directly. A conscience with a loophole. I appreciated it anyway. I sat in my parked car outside a grocery store for a long time after reading it. The engine was off, the windows were down. I could hear someone's cart rattling across the parking lot, a kid laughing, a car horn in the distance, normal sounds, the world going on while mine rearranged itself. The part that hurt most wasn't Dana's words. I knew how she operated. It was the heart emoji from my mother, that tiny red symbol carrying the weight of every suspicion I'd ever pushed down. My mother hadn't just agreed, she'd endorsed it. Enthusiastically, silently. The way she'd endorsed everything Dana had ever done that came at my expense. I drove home. I fed my cat, Oliver, a giant orange tabby I'd rescued 3 years ago from a parking garage stairwell. He wound around my legs while I stood in the kitchen not eating, just thinking. Then I opened my laptop. I pulled up the reservation confirmation, the catering agreement, the playlist I'd spent 2 evenings building, the deposit receipt, and one by one, I canceled everything. I didn't call Dana. I didn't confront my mother. I didn't send a message to the group chat I was never invited to. I just quietly removed the foundation and waited to see if anyone noticed what had been holding the building up. The first 2 days, nothing. Complete silence. I went to work. I came home. I cooked dinner. I watched Oliver chase a bottle cap across the hardwood floor. I slept better than I had in months, which surprised me. On day 3, Dana called. I let it ring. She called again, then a text. "Hey, just checking on the reservation. Dad's dinner is still at Rosario's, right?" I didn't respond. An hour later, another text. "Nora? Hello?" By day 4, the calls multiplied. My mother, Marcus, 2 cousins, Dana again, 3 times in one afternoon. I didn't pick up a single one. My voicemail filled with messages that all carried the same energy, not concern for me, but concern for the plan. Nobody asked if I was okay. They asked if the dinner was still happening. On day 5, Dana finally left a voicemail that got to the point. "I don't know what your problem is, but Dad's birthday is next week, and you need to confirm things with the restaurant. Call me back." This isn't funny. I saved it. Not because I wanted to listen again, but because I wanted proof of the tone, the entitlement, the assumption that I was malfunctioning rather than making a choice. On day 6, Marcus texted, the longest message he'd ever sent me. "Hey sis, not sure what's going on. Dana says the restaurant might not be booked anymore. Can you just handle it? You know how mom gets." You know how mom gets, the family motto, the sentence that had shaped my entire life. Accommodate, absorb. Don't make things difficult. I replied to Marcus. One line, "I'm not organizing the dinner. Handle it yourselves." He didn't respond. 20 minutes later, Dana called again. This time, I picked up. She didn't say hello. She started mid-sentence, the way she always did when she assumed the conversation was already about her. "What do you mean you're not organizing it?" Everything was set. You just had to show up and manage it like you always do. "I canceled everything," I said. Silence. A real one. The kind Dana wasn't used to sitting in. "You what?" "The reservation, the catering, the deposit, all of it, gone." "Why would you do that?" "Because I wasn't invited." Another silence, longer this time. "What are you talking about?" "The group chat, Dana." "Make sure Nora doesn't find out." Mom hearted it. I saw all of it. She recovered fast. Dana always recovered fast. That was taken out of context. We were just trying to simplify things. You always go overboard and make everything about yourself. Then you should have no trouble putting together something simple. Good luck. I hung up. My hands were shaking. Not from fear, from the unfamiliar weight of saying exactly what I meant without softening it. The birthday came. I didn't go, I didn't call. I didn't send a card. I took Oliver to the vet for his annual checkup. then sat in a coffee shop in Nora with a book I'd been meaning to read for 2 years. I turned my phone off at noon and didn't turn it back on until the next morning. When I did, there were 11 missed calls, 8 texts, 2 voicemails. I read the texts first. Dana's were furious. My mother's were guilt-laden. Marcus sent a photo, probably meant to make me feel bad. It showed my father sitting at the head of my parents' dining table, paper plates, a store-bought cake with crooked candles, a handful of people who looked like they'd rather be somewhere else. The banner on the wall said "Happy Birthday" in generic block letters. No Motown, no Rosarios, no warmth. My father looked fine, not devastated, not angry, just a man having a small dinner at home, which was all he'd ever needed. What he didn't need was the version of himself my family had tried to perform without the person who knew how to make it real. I felt a pang looking at that photo. Not guilt, something closer to grief. Grief for the version of me who would have seen that image and immediately started apologizing, scrambling, fixing. That version was gone now, and I didn't want her back. 2 weeks passed. The silence after the birthday wasn't peaceful. It was loaded. Dana had moved from fury to cold indifference. My mother left one voicemail that started with disappointment and ended with something close to cruelty. "Your father was heartbroken," she said. "I hope you're happy with yourself." I deleted it. My father himself never called. I didn't know what that meant. I tried not to think about it too hard. Then came the work conference. 4 days in Atlanta. I'd known about it for months and had already made arrangements. My neighbor, Jess, usually watched Oliver when I traveled. But Jess had a family emergency that week and had to fly to Ohio last minute. I was stuck. Against every instinct telling me not to, I called my mother. I kept it short. I asked if she could keep Oliver at the house while I was away. He was low maintenance. Food, water, a clean litter box. I'd leave everything she needed. My mother agreed. Her voice was almost warm, like the call was a bridge I was extending. Maybe it was. Maybe I was testing whether the ground could hold. I dropped Oliver off on a Tuesday morning. My mother met me at the door. She scratched behind his ears the way she used to when I first adopted him. She said he looked healthy. She didn't mention the birthday. Neither did I. I left his carrier, his food, his favorite blanket, and a printed list of instructions that I knew she wouldn't read. Then I drove to the airport. Atlanta was good for me. 4 days of structured schedules, hotel quiet, room service meals that nobody critiqued. I didn't check my family group text because I still wasn't in it. I didn't think about Charlotte once until the 3rd night, when something in my chest tightened without warning, a feeling I couldn't name but couldn't ignore. I flew back on Friday evening. I drove straight to my parents' house. The porch light was on. I knocked twice. My mother opened the door. She looked past me, not at me. Her hands were clasped. She didn't step aside to let me in. "Where's Oliver?" I asked. She pressed her lips together. He was getting into things. Scratching furniture. It wasn't working. "Okay, so where is he?" "Dana took him." My stomach dropped. Took him where? She found a family. A couple with a little girl who wanted a cat. She said it was a better fit. I couldn't speak. The words didn't make sense in any order she could have arranged them. Dana gave away my cat. My cat. The one I pulled out of a concrete stairwell at 11 at night. The one who slept on my pillow every single night for 3 years. The one whose vet records, microchip registration, and adoption paperwork all had my name on them. "You let her do that?" My voice was low, not calm. Low. The kind of low that comes right before something breaks. My mother stiffened. "Don't start. He was being difficult." She handled it. "He's not hers to handle." "You left him here. We did what we had to." I walked past her into the house. The food bowl was gone. The blanket was gone. The carrier was still there, empty, shoved into a corner of the laundry room like evidence someone forgot to hide. I found my father in his recliner. The TV was on. He didn't look up when I walked in. "Did you know?" I asked. He muted the television, stared at the screen for a long moment. "She said you wouldn't mind, that you were already upset and probably wouldn't come back for him." "And you believed that?" He didn't answer. He just turned the volume back on. I left the house without raising my voice. I sat in my car and gripped the steering wheel until my knuckles turned white. Then I made a phone call, not to Dana, not to my mother, not to anyone in my family. I called the non-emergency police line and explained the situation clearly. My pet was given away without my consent while I was out of town. I had adoption paperwork, vet records, microchip registration, years of documented ownership. The officer on the line listened, asked a few clarifying questions, then said something that cut through every layer of noise my family had ever surrounded me with. "That's not a family disagreement, ma'am. That's theft of property." I filed a report that night. The next morning, I contacted the microchip company. Oliver's chip was registered to me, my name, my address, my phone number. If anyone had taken him to a vet or a shelter, the trail would lead back to me. I also pulled every document I had: the original adoption form from the rescue organization, 3 years of vet receipts, the pet insurance policy I paid monthly. I didn't call Dana. I didn't warn her. I didn't give her time to build a story. By Monday afternoon, the officer assigned to the case had traced Oliver through the microchip. Dana had given him to a family in Huntersville, about 30 minutes north. She'd told them the cat was hers and she could no longer keep him. She hadn't exchanged money. She'd just handed him over like he was a piece of furniture she'd gotten bored of. The family cooperated fully. They were kind people. A young couple with a 4-year-old daughter who had already named him Pumpkin. When the officer explained the situation, they were stunned, embarrassed, apologetic. They handed him over without argument. The little girl cried. "I still think about that, and I hate Dana for putting those people in that position." When they brought Oliver to me at the station, he recognized me immediately. He meowed once, loud and sharp, the way he always did when I came home late. I held him against my chest and felt him purr so hard his whole body vibrated. I buried my face in his fur and stayed like that for a while. Nobody rushed me. The officer asked if I wanted to press charges. I didn't hesitate this time, yes. When the police showed up at Dana's house, she answered the door in workout clothes, hair pulled back, coffee in hand, calm, composed, like the world operated on her schedule. Then she saw the uniforms. "Can I help you?" she asked, already adjusting her posture into the version of herself she used with strangers. Poised, cooperative, in control. "Ma'am, did you give away a cat that belonged to someone else?" She blinked. "I rehomed him. He was being neglected." "Did you have the owner's permission?" "She's my sister. She left him with us. I made a judgment call. The owner has filed a report. We have documentation confirming the animal was hers." Dana's composure cracked. Not a lot, just enough. Her eyes darted to the officer's partner, then back. "This is ridiculous. She's doing this because she's angry about something else entirely. This is a family matter." The officer didn't raise his voice. "A family matter would be a disagreement about Thanksgiving dinner, ma'am. Giving away someone's registered pet without consent is a criminal matter." They arrested her in her own doorway. She didn't scream, she didn't cry. She just stood very still, like her body couldn't process a scenario where her confidence wasn't enough to make things disappear. My mother called me 17 times that afternoon. I answered once. She was crying. She said I'd gone too far. She said Dana was humiliated. She said the family was falling apart. She said I was selfish, cold, vengeful. "You let her give away my cat," I said. "It was a cat, Nora. It was mine." She went quiet. Then she said the thing I'd been waiting my whole life to hear her say out loud, the thing she'd always meant, but never had the courage to put into words. "If you keep doing this, you won't have a family anymore." I let the sentence sit between us. I let it breathe. Then I replied, "I haven't had one in a long time, Mom. I just stopped pretending." I hung up. I didn't cry. I scratched Oliver behind his ears. He purred. Dana was charged. She paid a fine. There was a restitution process. She never apologized. My mother never acknowledged that what happened was wrong. My father sent me a text 3 days later that read, "Hope you're doing okay." 5 words. No punctuation, no follow-up. Exactly the kind of effort he'd always been comfortable with. I changed the locks on my apartment. I updated my emergency contacts. I removed every family member except Kevin, the brother-in-law who had sent me the screenshot in the first place. The only one who, when the moment came, chose honesty over comfort. The weeks after were strange. Not sad exactly, just unfamiliar. The silence wasn't the punishing kind my family used. It was the kind that shows up when you stop performing for an audience that was never really watching you to begin with. I kept working. I cooked meals I actually wanted to eat. I started going to a Thursday evening pottery class, mostly because it was the opposite of hospital logistics. Messy, slow, imprecise. I was terrible at it. I loved it. Oliver adjusted too. He stopped hiding under the bed when the doorbell rang, which he'd done ever since I brought him home. He started sleeping stretched out across the couch, instead of curled into the smallest possible shape. I know people say animals don't understand what happened, but I think he understood enough. Some nights I'd sit on the floor with him while the apartment was quiet and think about that group chat, 14 people, a heart emoji, and the sentence underneath it all that nobody had the decency to say to my face. I used to think I was the one holding the family together. Now I realized I was just the one they held down. Walking away from people who share your blood is the hardest thing I've ever done. Not because I miss them, because I miss the version of them I kept believing in long after it stopped being true. But peace isn't something anyone gives you. It's what's left when you stop letting people take it away. If you've ever been the one who did everything and still got erased, I see you. Drop a comment. Tell me your story. Subscribe to Pearl Revenge for more real stories about setting boundaries and finding the strength to walk away. And remember, choosing yourself is not betrayal. It's the first honest thing you've ever done.